Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT EMEA Week 2 power rankings. Pretty fun week in EMEA, not a ton of movement this week. A lot of stuff that I expected to happen, but kind of corrections for maybe where some teams were like within a certain tier, or maybe getting them back to where they were maybe expected to be, but I kind of had them a little bit lower than maybe they should have been. But if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Really helps me out. As well as go check out my Twitter and my Discord. Links are in the description. I post weekly player rankings on both of those. I just, as of recording this, posted my Americas one. My EMEA one is already out. And I'm still working on finishing up all the Pacific games from this week. So those will be out, or the Pacific rankings will be out once I finish those, probably by the end of the day today. So maybe before this video is even out, they might be out. So go check that out. As well as my Twitch link is in the description. I stream a decent amount, both on this channel and on my Twitch. So you can go check those out. Turn notifications on here. I tweet out when I go live. I have notifications set up in my Discord for whenever I do literally any kind of content. So go check all of that out. But yeah, let's get right into it. All right, so as we always do, we'll start with this bottom tier. The teams that are in this relegation zone, teams that I don't think are very good and probably are bad enough to deserve to get relegated. But I mean, one of these teams obviously isn't an Ascension team, so they can't get relegated. But it's Koi and Apex, same spots as they were to start the split. I don't really have too much to say. Like Koi had a relatively close game against Team Liquid, but Team Liquid does struggle a little bit in their like opening matches of splits. So I think a lot of that had to do with Liquid not playing well rather than Koi actually looking good. That being said, they did look quite a bit better than they were in stage one. These roster changes definitely were a good step forward. And I think their Icebox is genuinely a good map for them because they, like, at the end of last split they kind of figured out, hey, we can play Icebox and we're actually pretty decent at it. And I think they got even better heading into stage two. So there is some positives for Koi. I think when not playing against a Team Liquid caliber team, they might be good, or might be in a better spot. But they're playing against Fnatic this week, and then Carmine Core next week, who I mean, they could in theory beat Carmine Core if like KC trolls the map veto or something, and then picks bad comps or something. But I really highly doubt that that is gonna end up happening. And then Apex, I mean, it's just kind of the same deal. Penny looked nice for them, and that's about it. I guess their sunset wasn't terrible, and I kind of liked the comps that they were playing on not corrode. So it's not entirely negative. Like I think they kind of, I mean, I don't even want to say that. Like I was gonna say they kind of figured out maybe what role Badu should be playing, but like he played the Omen on Icebox, which I thought wasn't that bad for him, and then the rest of it was just kind of yeah. So I don't know, man. Both these teams probably won't make playoffs. I would be very surprised if either of them did. I mean, Koi could get a few wins, but Apex, I highly doubt that. And then we have teams that I think are like relatively okay, but ultimately, if they do end up making playoffs, which I kind of doubt, I mean, no, one of these teams, I mean, they're both in the same group, so they probably won't. Um, if they do end up making playoffs, like I think they'll be fine overall, but I don't really see these teams having any chance at making it to champions. And that'll start with Gentlemates. I like they were good for like a map and a half, maybe a little bit more than that. But the second they got to 12 against Foot, they kind of crumbled. Foot also played really well at the end of that game, to be fair. Um, like it felt like Foot activated, but surely, like if Gentlemates were a team that could be making it to champions, I think you'd really expect them to get at least one round out of six against Foot to make it to, or to win that game and kind of get a statement win on the board, um, and whatnot. Like their sunset wasn't very good. The bind I thought was pretty nice. I don't love the comp. I know the comp was yeah, that was a different team. I still don't love the comp because it's Waylay. But they did show some nice stuff with it, so I didn't think it was like awful. Um, And then the rest of it, like they're just playing the neon double initiator stuff. It's nothing that we haven't seen before. Like I don't think their comps are anything interesting really. They're like good, and comeback was pretty disappointing in my opinion. I expected him to be a lot better. Mini played really well. I thought Kamek was decent. Prosh had some okay moments, especially in the Astron bind, but overall wasn't amazing. And then Vakash I thought was nice, but did lose that. I think it was in regulation that one clutch against Foot and Lotus that kind of lost them the game. Like it was 1v1 and he played it really poorly. If he won, they would have won the game. So not great there, but overall, I still think Gentlemates are a decent team that can get some wins within the EMEA. And then the other team, we have Vitality, who I now kind of feel like I should have put below Mates, but they lost to Giants this week. I fully expected that to happen. I picked it in my Pickems last week. Um, the new additions look okay. Like Kovac was decent and like other than like some really really bad like individual decision making moments, I thought Kovac was okay. And then Unfake just like, I mean, he called a decent game. I don't think it was terrible, but overall just didn't do really anything in the fragging department, which I mean, you didn't fully expect what like in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, Durka played really well. Les was really good. Kix was a little bit disappointing, just from like the fragging output side of things. Like he still looked decent, like a good support player, and I think he's probably a good piece for this team in the future. But overall, like it was kind of disappointing because I expected him to play a lot better. But he's also playing Smokes, which is not his main role or anything like that. So just they'll be okay, but this team is just kind of cooked from how like badly they've performed in terms of their own expectations throughout the year to this point. All right, now on to teams that I think are good teams. Probably won't make champions, but definitely have quite a bit going for them in terms of just whether it be players in good form, good ideas, or like kind of a mix of both. And I mean, especially like momentum with like a young team that's building into something that could potentially be good. Now, Carmine Core is not that team. I considered having them in the okay teams tier, but I mean, like they were fine against Fnatic. I wasn't like massively impressed. Like obviously the Lotus beating them on that map where Fnatic is so good is very impressive. But I feel like Aang has kind of had their number on that map a little bit in the past, so you could potentially see them losing against other teams, and I wouldn't be super shocked by that. Like I think Fnatic will continue being good on Lotus, and I think Carmine Core will probably continue being kind of on that map, especially with this comp that I don't think is particularly great. I also thought a lot of their individuals were in form in this game. That kind of helped them. Sagetsu played really well. Aves was really, really good. I thought maybe not as much on the Rays, but both those guys were really good. Elite looked quite a bit better. Um, and like Sadak was fine and Martin was fine as you'd expect. Sadak was probably a little bit better than I honestly expected, but Martin, people were telling me that like he was actually really good in stage 1 because his stats were really good, and maybe like I said he was fine in stage 1, but like he was fine and he's continuing to be fine, but he's just not a good enough player to get you over the line in these games against Fnatic where they started to make a comeback towards the end of the game. I think they were down 13. Yeah, they were down 13-8 and then got it to 12-11 and then or they were down 12-8 and then they got it to 12-11 and then lost in that last round. I, I don't know, man. This team, there's some nice players, some nice pieces and whatnot, but I feel like if Carmine Core can't beat Fnatic on Icebox, which is a good map for Fnatic, but not a great map, with Aves dropping 28 at the same time, like I don't know if you're really going to be able to beat a ton of the other teams in the EMEA. Now, they play Apex and Koi these next 2 weeks. I think they can build up some momentum, maybe show up against Navi, play quite a bit better there, and be on a decent run heading into playoffs. Obviously, they play Liquid the last week of the season. I would fully expect them to lose that game, even if they do have quite a bit of momentum. Um, but yeah, like they're a fine team. They kind of float between this okay and good teams tier. Then we have Giants, who this conversation is going to be much, much more positive because I picked them to beat Vitality in week one. I had them in the tier below this before in terms of teams that had like a ton of potential, but not like they haven't shown it fully yet. This roster's really good though. I really like Gravino. I like Cloud. Maybe not as much as an IGL, but he's still really good. I really like Westside. Flickless played pretty well. Aro was fine. I don't think Aro was like amazing by any means, but he was decent. And they brought out an interesting comp on Bind. I don't love it, where it was Gecko solo initiator with the Viper, the Deadlock, and Astra and a Raze. They did struggle a little bit on the attack side in the rifle round specifically. They kind of got a little bit lucky that they won pistol bonus on Bind, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, they lost every other pistol this game. So they definitely deserved this game. But I think their comp on Bind could use a little bit of work. But overall, looked pretty good. And if they can continue to build up some momentum throughout the season, I don't think they're there to win against BVL this week or even Foot next week. But I think they can get 2 wins, make it into playoffs, and maybe go on a run during playoffs and potentially maybe make it into champions. But I don't think it's going to be through like that top 2 like grand final slot. I think they're going to have to hope maybe a Fnatic and like one of the other teams that are high in points make it to the top there, and then they can get a few more points during playoffs. But honestly, I don't even think that's possible. I think they actually just need to make playoffs if they're going to go 2-3 during the regular season, because they don't have enough points to make it off of points. So they will have to make the finals. So it'll be a little bit difficult because of how they've done early in the season. But honestly, I think this is a good team going into next season and has quite a bit of potential. Then we have Navi. They were fine. Like, as you expect from Navi, they destroyed Apex on Icebox and Corrode. We're not good on Sunset. I'd expect them to kind of avoid that map a little bit more in the future. Maybe try to get some other maps in the pool instead. Obviously, they'll probably continue to ban Lotus because they didn't really like that last split. So they do have some map weaknesses overall, but I think they'll be a good team heading into next split. Alexic was a very good addition to this team. I thought he played amazing in this game, having some really nice rounds. I think it was on Icebox, and I thought he had one on Sunset, maybe. I don't remember. But overall, was pretty good. Xiao playing more scan initiator now, which is really nice. Having Angel play that KO a little bit. I don't love this team's corrode comp. I think just playing like a default ascent comp on this map is not the way to go. But it is comfort agents for all 5 players, so I could see that being their reasoning. And kind of just trying to be all 5 players be individually better than the other team. I think that can be a decent way to win on the new maps. But yeah, overall, just a fine team. I don't really expect Navi to make champions either, but they definitely have a better shot than Giants strictly because of their points situation, as well as Carmine Core, I'd say. I think they have. I'm pretty sure Navi has a better point situation. Wikipedia. Let's check. EMEA. VCT EMEA. VCT EMEA stage 2. Holy shit. I don't even know how to get to it on VLR, so. Cracks. And then EMEA stage 2. Additional content. No. I don't know. I'll figure it out later. But I think Navi could go on a run in playoffs and be fine. Potentially make it to champions and then not really do anything there. But I mean, they're a good team, obviously. Now we get to teams that are truly like contending for champions that definitely can make it. Now, not all teams above this line can make it because there are 5 teams above this champs contender line, 4 in the tier and then 1 above it. So start with Foot, who I did not love their move in like the like assuming that CNED was going to be playing a lot of Duelist, I did not love this move. Now, after seeing him play the Omen a little bit, like the Sunset Omen, I thought was pretty nice. The Yoru on Lotus was pretty nice. The Omen on Bind, it was fine. I didn't really like it, but Zeus playing perma Rays on all three of these maps did not get me excited for this team. He didn't play any Rays last stage at all and was completely frying. And then they decided to completely switch up what was making him good. Now, obviously, I get it on maps like Bind, but Sunset, you don't need to play the Rays. I would honestly think you shouldn't play the Rays over agents like Neon, especially. And then Lotus, I think kind of same deal, but in this comp, I think Raze is better. But I would personally just go with the Neon for Zeus, just because I think that is what he is best at. Um, so I would hope they kind of switch that up a little bit. And my main concern with them is that they didn't look great for like 2.5 maps until you get to that second half of Lotus and mates get to 12. They kind of activated in that last 6 rounds. So you'd like to see that foot maybe next week rather than maybe the foot that you get in like the first like 80% of that game. Now they do play Vitality, who I think should be a pretty decent matchup for them, as well as then Giants the next week. And I think they should be able to build up some momentum before Team Heretics in week 4 and maybe be able to win that game. I obviously think this team will make playoffs. I would be kind of surprised if they didn't. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows with the CNET edition, even though I think they are definitely better after looking at some of what they're playing. Then we have BBL. No real shock here. They played a very close game against Team Heretics, I think. Destroyed them on Icebox. Were okay on Haven. They didn't really start very well on the defensive side, but Heretics are really good on their attack side on Haven. And then BBL were able to kind of get some rounds back on their attack side, but 13-9, not super close. And Sunset, I mean, also wasn't super close. Heretics started kind of choking a little bit at the end, but BBL was able to kind of make it a little bit closer towards the end. This game started with like 3 aces on Sunset, which was kind of crazy. Which I'll show. I'll probably end up showing one of them, the Yampy ace here, and then probably one of the other ones for Heretics. But yeah, like I don't really have too much else to say because like BBL is kind of what we expected them to be, maybe a little bit better in terms of like just the team improving from stage 1 to stage 2. Their comps are kind of just default stuff, nothing super surprising, and I think that's perfectly fine for them. I guess the Sunset one wasn't like super default since they were playing the Viper Deadlock from Gen G. So yeah, overall a good game for BBL, and they'll have some easier games. Now on the Team Heretics, the other side of that matchup. They were good. They were really, really bad on Icebox, and I was really worried that they were just going to completely crumble out of the match, but they were really good on Haven. Miniboo had a great performance. Woot was pretty nice. Benji was decent. Rienz was kind of just his usual self, that supportive Sova player. And then Benji and Woot kind of just won them Sunset. Specifically, Woot was amazing on that map. Get this guy playing actual Flash Initiators, please. Stop playing him on whatever the fuck else they were playing him on. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, specifically KO, don't really mess with the Breach too much, honestly. Specifically because Breach is not very good in this meta. But, yeah, just keep him on that role. I think if you need to, he can play a little bit of Sentinel there as well, like a Deadlock kind of thing. But I think overall this team should be leaning into double Duelist, double Initiator, maybe even with the KO. And I think they'll be a lot better than they were at Toronto. Now, do I think this team is like fully back and is going to be like 2024 Heretics? No. I still don't think that they're in that form, but I still think that they are a good team in EMEA and should be contending for champs and making champs, especially after making an international event and making a grand final within EMEA. I think they'll have enough points to make it regardless. Then Team Liquid. I mean, I know they didn't play really that well this week against Koi, but overall, I think they were good enough, and will be better in future games. They did struggle. Like I said, they struggled a little bit at the beginning of stage one last split, and they kind of figured it out after that. So we'll have to see. I think they're a good team, and they'll get better. And that's really all I have to say. Like Trex didn't even play that well in this game, and I think he'll be better in the future. So again, I don't really have a ton to say about Liquid because they are a very similar team to what they've been. Then Fnatic, again, same deal. Best team in EMEA. Not really too much to say here. Yeah, they're very good. Did they change any comps up? I forget. Let me look. That's the only thing I'd really have to talk about. Bind. I mean, they were running Teo on Bind, which is pretty interesting. It was fine from Alfier. I don't think it was like the best Teo I've ever seen, obviously, which you don't really expect from him. But yeah, they were fine. Obviously, Lotus, I talked about earlier with Aang kind of having their number. I'm not super shocked by that. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm surprised they lost on Lotus, but they're going to be fine in the future. I'm not like super shocked that they lost to Karmine Corps there. And then Icebox, you'd like to see them close it out, maybe a little bit like maybe a little less close, especially after starting 5-0 up. But they're fine. They'll kind of cruise to a champion spot. I think if they win like one more game, they'll probably be guaranteed. I don't know like the exact spots, but they have guaranteed wins against like Koi and Apex, and then a probable win against Navi that should get them into champions before they even have to play playoffs. But yeah, these are my power rankings for this week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And now we get to the Pickems. All right. I was running out of breath at the end of that last part, but I think I'm good now. Took a deep breath, drank some water, whatnot. But last week I did fairly okay. I'm whelmed with how I did. I would obviously prefer to go at least 5 of 6, but I changed this at the last second after hearing the CNED news, and then they showed like this. If I knew CNED was playing Smokes, I would actually probably have picked Foot in this game. But like, yeah, I'm okay with losing that one, and then this one I was definitely okay with. This was an upset pick from me, and I was perfectly fine with getting it wrong. BBL made it close. I would prefer them to have won, obviously, but I'm okay with it. Then onto this week, I think there's a lot of easy games, honestly, for me. You have Karmine Corps over Apex, pretty easy. I think BBL over Giants, I feel good about, but honestly, this is a fairly close game in terms of like a 60-40, now that I think about it. But I do think BBL will get through this game and be fine. We'll skip this game because this game is close. I'll go back to it, and we'll do the same with this game. But Heretics over Mates, I think that's pretty easy. And then Fnatic over Koi, I think is also very, very easy. Now, I think Mates could make it fairly close against Heretics, but I don't think they'll end up pulling through and winning in the end. But overall, like, fairly decent game. That should be a relatively entertaining watch. But then I think the game of the week is Liquid Navi. I do feel good about picking Liquid, kind of same deal as BBL over Giants. But I think Navi is a better team than Giants and definitely has some more upset potential. And if Liquid continues to struggle like they did in week 1, I think they will lose this game. But I don't think they will continue to struggle. I think they'll fix some stuff, be better in this game, and head into next week feeling really good about where they're at as a team. Then Foot, Vitality. I also feel good about Foot in this game. But I think Vitality does have some upset potential with your Durkas, your less, like, if you get like a really good game from one of those guys or both of them. I think they could definitely upset Foot, especially if we get maybe a slightly worse Foot than what they have shown at the end of that Gentlemates game. I think Vitality could definitely upset them there, especially after maybe settling in a little bit more with their new players and whatnot. So yeah, these will be the picks for this week. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Leave a like, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.